the Biafran War. It is a story that sits heavily in the heart of Nigeria, a story of great pain and great courage. It happened many years ago, from 1967 to 1970, but its shadow is long. It was a war that tore families apart and left deep scars on the land and its people. Many lives were lost, not just to bullets and bombs, but to something even more cruel: hunger. Understanding this war is important. It helps us understand Nigeria today. It reminds us of the cost of conflict and the preciousness of peace. This war was not just a series of battles fought by soldiers in uniforms. It was a struggle for survival for millions of ordinary people, especially the Igbo people of southeastern Nigeria. They called their new country Biafra. They wanted to be separate, to be safe, to build their own future. But Nigeria, the larger country, said no. And so the fighting began. It was a brutal war, full of suffering. Before Nigeria was one country, it was many different kingdoms and communities. Each had its own way of life, its own leaders, its own traditions. Then, people from Britain came. They were colonial rulers. They drew lines on a map, and these lines created a new country called Nigeria, around the year 1914. They brought together diverse groups of people who had not always lived together under one rule. The year 1966 was a very bad year for Nigeria. In January, a group of army officers, mostly young Igbo men, staged a military coup. They said they wanted to end corruption and bad government. They killed several important political leaders, including the Prime Minister, who was from the north, and the Premier of the northern region. While some people in the south initially welcomed the coup, hoping for positive change, many people in the north saw it differently. They saw it as an Igbo-led attempt to take power and dominate the country. This created great fear and anger. The new military government, led by General Johnson Agui Ironsi, who was an Igbo, tried to calm the country. He spoke of unity and a new beginning. However, many Northerners did not trust him or his government. They felt that the coup plotters who had killed their leaders were not being punished properly. The tension grew thicker each day. Then, in July 1966, a second coup happened. On May 30th, 1967, after much pain and seeing no other way, Lieutenant Colonel Ojukwu declared the eastern region an independent nation. He called it the Republic of Biafra. The Igbo people and other ethnic groups in the region, like the Ibibio, Efik, and Ijaw, celebrated. They hoped for peace and a chance to build their new country. They had a new flag, a new anthem, and a strong belief in their cause. They felt they were fighting for their very survival, for the right to exist without fear of being killed or persecuted. Biafra was born out of a deep sense of grievance and a desperate hope for a secure future for its people. The Nigerian government, under General Gowon, did not accept Biafra's independence. They saw it as a rebellion, an illegal act that would break up the country. Gowon said Nigeria must remain one nation. He promised a quick police action to bring the eastern region back into Nigeria. But it was not quick, and it was not just a police action, it became a full-scale war. The Nigerian federal forces had more soldiers, more weapons, and more resources. They had support from countries like Britain and the Soviet Union. The blockade imposed by Nigeria had a terrible effect on the people of Biafra. Food became scarce. Very, very scarce. Soon, there was almost nothing left to eat. People ate lizards, rats, and insects if they could find them. Farmers could not go to their fields because of the fighting or because their lands were occupied. The main victims of this hunger were the children. Their bodies became thin. Their bellies swelled up from a disease called kwashiorkor, caused by a lack of protein. Their hair turned reddish and fell out. Their eyes looked empty. Millions of people, especially children and the elderly, were starving to death. It was a slow, painful way to die. News and pictures of the starving Biafran children began to reach the outside world. By the beginning of 1970, Biafra was exhausted. The people were starving. The soldiers had little ammunition left. The Nigerian federal forces were closing in from all sides. On January 11, 1970, the Biafran leader, General Ojukwu, flew out of Biafra, he said, in search of peace. A few days later, on January 15, 1970, the remaining Biafran leaders officially surrendered to Nigeria. The war was over. Biafra, the nation that had fought so hard to exist for nearly 3 years, ceased to be. The dream of an independent Biafran state had ended in defeat and immense suffering for its people. General Yakubu Gowon, the Nigerian head of state, declared that there would be no victor, no vanquished. He called for reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. He wanted to bring the Igbo people back into Nigeria and rebuild the nation. This was a noble sentiment. The Nigerian government did make some efforts to reintegrate the former Biafran areas. However, the reality for many Igbo people was difficult.